fertility with our expert over a cup of tea. Today we have a very interesting topic, repeated IVF failures. We see day in and day out so many couples who walk into the units of Garbhagudi asking for the reasons why they repeated IVF failures, and they're so anxious, they want answers immediately, and they don't want any investigations to be done, but they want all their questions to be answered. We find so many couples day in and day out in the units of Garbhagudi. We have two experts with us today who have handled multiple IVF failures, and they have given the best success rates to those couples, bringing a ray of hope into their lives. We have Dr. Chaitra here. Welcome, Doctor. She is the Assistant Medical Director of Garbhagudi. And we have Dr. Sophia, Chairperson of a clinical committee. Both these doctors have given the maximum success rates with our IVF, and they have brought in so much of happiness and joy to so many couples. Let us ask them few doubts which are lingering in our minds and get the answers today, and also the solutions and solace into our lives. Welcome, doctors. We find that so many people undergo so many IVF centers. They do window shopping, go into many fertility units, try one cycle of IVF, again stop there, go to a different IVF unit because they saw somebody through a word of mouth or through an ad or some other promotion on the TV, and they keep changing the fertility units. But they will not be getting any success with their IVFs. What could be one main reason for this multiple IVF failures?
Ma'am, we have to see all different parameters which contributes for IVF success rates. So we have to look into the uterine factor, the going to the gametes, the sperm quality, the egg quality, and the way endometrial transfer was done. To begin with, first main thing is the ovarian stimulation. It has to be stimulated in a proper way using gonadotropins, and we have keeping a good control on the stimulation. Retrieve good quality of eggs. Again, quality of eggs depends on the age of the patient and also their own inborn potential. So the quality of eggs and the sperms which is used, the processing techniques, what is the problem in the sperm, whether they were having severe oligoesteno, or whether they were having high DFI, or whether the semen parameters was completely normal. Based on which we have to decide on the sperm selection also. And then once the embryos are formed, we have to look into what is their uterine factor, whether it is having any polyps or any adenomyotic features or previous history of genital TB or surgeries on the uterus. And then select a good quality embryo. And embryo transfer technique is another thing which is very crucial, because many a times we have to understand that about 30% of failures is mainly because of improper technique in the embryo transfer also. So we have to balance all these things, obtaining a gamete, doing an IVF procedure, and selecting the embryos and properly placing inside the uterus. So we can actually have a discussion like where all there can be problems and what could be the reasons for failure. It's very vast and we have to go step by step.
Okay, I've seen so many couples with multiple IVF failures come to the Electronic City branch, and you would have done a proper stimulation like Dr. Chaitra said, and you would have gifted them pregnancies. What is that unique thing you do apart from other IVF centers?
Ma'am, one thing which which I can proudly say to everyone is our lab conditions and the team of embryologists which we have. So the kind of the embryos which are formed reaching up to blastocyst, are the level of blast conversion in our lab is like top quality. It can be compared with any other top level IVF centers. So we have a good team of embryologists, and obviously the other team of clinicians who have expertise in stimulations and other things.
And one thing, as Dr. Sophia said, ma'am, whenever a patient comes to us, it's not that everybody are treated same, and it's not that we follow uniform protocol for all patients. It is always an individual approach. We have to individualize treatment protocol. It's not that every couple require the same. So based on their married life, their history of treatments, previous outcome, how IVF outcome has happened. So we try to sit and ascertain what could be the reason of their failure and try to overcome all those problems which they have encountered in the past, change that and do it. So your individual approach to each couple is what makes the difference in our
Of
center.
course.
Yes.
Individualized. That's very, very important. And I see that many couples who walk in for multiple IVF failures nowadays, they have some comorbid conditions like diabetes, thyroid, or PCOD, or poor responders. I see in many of the files this is not at all addressed properly.
Yes, ma'am. That is another point, ma'am. When we do a stimulation at Kalburi, we don't jump into the starting of the IVF cycle immediately. You
Yeah.
have to properly work up, see the previous files, what has been done, what change you can bring into the to the stimulation, and also when everything we have to see the thyroid, the sugar level, the obesity level, everything. Then only we can go ahead with the transfer or the IVF cycle. So all these things we take into account, and that is why the success rate is better.
And we have also seen those who come with outside failures and all. Repeatedly, same things has been done. Conventional stimulation, IVF, do the transfer. Some centers do evaluate hysteroscopy, but in spite of having 2 failures or so, nobody is trying to do genetic workups like whether
Yeah.
their karyotyping is normal, whether it is some thrombophilia which is causing these kind of problems. So it's very important that the workup should be complete and then start an IVF program.
Okay.
And also many a times we have seen that many IVF centers are very used to transferring only blastocysts, and couples who this lady would have had multiple number of eggs retrieved, but ultimately they have very few blastocysts, and grade B quality, grade C quality blastocysts have been transferred. So it's like a waste of embryos. If your lab conditions, your culture conditions are not good, it's unnecessary wasting those eggs and wasting those embryos because you want to do a blastocyst transfer, because people say blastocyst transfer is good. When you don't know your lab conditions, it is better you should not culture all those embryos to blastocysts and waste those eggs.
Yeah, I've seen this aspect in many of the files where should have got at least 20 oocytes, at least 10 grade 3 and grade 1 embryos on day 3, but again none of the blast conversion has happened. It is a gross wastage of embryos.
No, and one more thing, ma'am. Actually, the couples read a lot. They themselves insist on a blastocyst transfer without actually knowing whether the hospital can provide such a this one. So it's best that decisions should be left to doctors and they decide based on their own lab culture conditions whether a day 3 is better or a day 5 is better.
It's such an important message from Dr. Chaitra. See, we are not an expert in certain fields. So patients know, they Google a lot and they go and force the doctors for blast transfer. Maybe their lab conditions are not ideal for it. Very important message, doctor. Dr. Sophia, do you balance both day 3 and day 5?
Yes, ma'am. So in patients who have had previous IVF failures, we have started doing something called a sequential transfer, wherein we give the couple the opportunity of day 3 as well as day 5 transfer. So in the same transfer cycle, we put an embryo of day 3 as well as day 5. So we give the benefit of both the embryo stages, and also if the patient has had let's say subtle the problems of receptivity, endometrial receptivity, when we do a sequential transfer, most of the time it gets corrected. So this is a better way of dealing in patients who have had repeated IVF failure with a day 3 transfer or single day 5 transfer.
So Dr. Chaitra, what's your experience with sequential transfer? I've seen many of your patients conceive with that.
Actually, we have recently presented a paper also on this, ma'am. When we compare day 3, day 5 and a sequential transfer, definitely sequential transfer gives much higher success rates. Mainly because we are transferring different, as Dr. Sophia said, different stage of embryos, different number on a different days. So whoever is having these subtle receptivity issues will get corrected. And moreover, the patient also has a more chance of selection, especially if the patient is having grade 2 embryos. So we don't know which is a euploid, which is a aneuploid embryo there. So this extended culture will also help us to select that particular embryo which is of highest potential for implantation. So definitely sequential transfer is giving much higher success rates to us.
Okay. See, we always know this for a successful pregnancy, it has to be a dialogue between the endometrium and the embryo which should click. So if the embryo is of a very good quality and there's a compromise on the endometrium, this will also affect the success rate. Isn't it?
So for when we say that the patient is ready for embryo transfer, we keep into considerations the endometrial thickness that has to be minimum of 7.5 to 8 millimeter. The pattern of the thickness, that it should be nice triple line pattern, and also the blood flow of the endometrium as well as the uterine artery blood flow.
Yeah.
All these things has to be considered into account, and then we go for embryo transfer. Sorry. So it is just not the thickness that we see. We have to see the blood flows and other patterns also before doing the embryo transfer.
Okay, Dr. Chaitra, if the lady has come with very good embryos frozen, but you're seeing that repeatedly her endometrium is not coming up as you had anticipated, do you have any approaches for that?
So like we have like various endometrial preparation methods nowadays, ma'am. Previously, we any IVF center would have used only these conventional preparations where the hormone tablets used to be
Yes.
given. But now there is something called stimulated, where we can see many patients who are not responding to a regular HRT are responding to mild ovarian stimulation. So we
Yes.
just track the egg and add adjuvants to boost up the lining. That is one thing. Second thing is there are endometrial growth factors which are available. It could be GCSF injections which we can combine along with our regular HRTs. And now off late we have this bioactivated peptide concentrates, which is nothing but a growth factor of autologous growth factor, that is individual's own growth factors, which will be separated from their serum and infused into the uterus. So we are seeing that this bioactivated peptide concentrate is giving exceptional results, especially for patients who are having persistent thin endometrium, and also for those patients who had unexplained recurrent implantation failure. It may not be attributed to their embryos or any other factors, but probably because of receptivity issues or thickness issues.
Okay.
So BAPC is something which is new now, and definitely it is here to stay.
In a couple with multiple IVF failures, will the man's parameters, sperm parameters also
Definitely, ma'am.
attribute?
Because that is the point when we insist the patients of the husband to do a sperm test called as DA5, DNA fragmentation index. So even if the embryo quality was good, but if the DA5 was high, the internal structure of the embryo may not be so good. Therefore, they have had failures, or even if they conceive, also these patients have high chance of recurrent abortions. So in such a patient, we would advise them to do DA5 who have had previous IVF failures,
Okay.
and then accordingly we can go ahead. If a DA5 is high but the sperm number is very good, we can go ahead with something called as MAX. MAX is helping in the sperm selection of the good sperm selection while doing the fertilization.
Okay.
And if let's say the sperm number is not so good, it's less than 10 million count, we can even go for a PISA sample, the surgical sperm retrieval sample, wherein the sperms will have less DNA fragmentation index. So those sperms can be selected for doing the fertilization.
Okay.
I think one difference that Garbhagudi makes is that we have a constant dialogue between the clinician and the embryologist, seeing how their previous outcome was, what probably was the reason for their failures,
Yeah.
whether it was anything to do with culture conditions or their embryo, the behavior of the gametes, based on which we can actually better counsel the patient whether a donor program would be better or a different source of sperms, like as Dr. Sophia was telling, whether an ejaculate sperm is better or subjecting the sperms to MAX or a surgically retrieved sperms are better. So all these things makes definitely a total difference to the outcome of the patient.
Correct. And doctor, we have been seeing that in Garbhagudi for the past 3 months, we are observing 60 to 80% success rate in all our centers. And we have
And to that, I should add that your GG Corp has got 100% result this time.
Yes,
Congratulations.
exactly. So we have the state of the art embryology labs in all our centers. So will this labs also add to the highest success rate which we are observing?
Definitely, ma'am. So as I said, many people do just conventional IVF, doing whether it's IVF or an ICSI, and then doing the embryo transfer. So what difference Garbhagudi can make is that we have MAX facility, we have surgical retrieval of
Yeah.
sperms, we have laser assisted hatching, and we can do this pre-implantation genetic screening of the embryos also. So all these things
Now we have
definitely.
even acquired the BD also, wherein
Yeah.
we have
So we have this
different-
tri-gas culture systems also. So definitely without disturbing and providing the best environment to the embryos makes a lot of difference, and it can prevent these unnecessary abortions because of
Yes.
extended culture or repeated exposure to the external environment. So that is making the difference to our success rates.
Yeah, doctor, you are very humble to state all the reasons except the technique of embryo transfer and pickup, which you both are the best. I've seen you do embryo transfers in such a gentle and nice way. Will the technique also matter, doctor?
Yes, ma'am. So in everywhere nowadays, everyone practices ultrasound guided embryo transfer,
Yeah.
wherein we visualize the tip of the catheter and then we put the embryos not touching the fundus. So we do that, and also we why the embryo transfer technique comes with an experience.
Yeah.
So when we are putting the embryos, you have to be very gentle. Do not disturb the endometrium. Do not cause unnecessary bleeding. And also many times what we have seen that is while cleaning the endometrium will be vigorously cleaning. Some patients will be vigorously
Yes.
cleaning. So thus all these factors will cause endometrial contraction, which is not good for endometrium for the patient when we are doing the embryo transfer.
Yeah.
So we have to be very gentle, and all these things comes with experience with over a time when we do the cases.
Dr. Chandra, when I review most of the files with repeated IVF failures, I see that the stimulation would have happened in a clinic setup, and they would have used some not the best of the injections, and they take the couple for pickup in some distant place, some embryo transfer in a different place. Again, the pregnancy monitoring again comes to the clinic. Will all this affect the success rates?
Yes, ma'am, because as I was telling, ovarian stimulation is very
Yeah.
important, because when we are giving gametes, that is oocytes to the embryologist,
Correct.
it's good that we have to give the good quality which is
Yeah.
possible from her side. So in the individualization of stimulation, the protocols, the dosages used is very important, and right monitoring is also required, because when you are changing multiple doctors or so, you may not receive the injections on time. So most of us do this antagonist protocol. So you may receive the injections late, which may cause premature LH surge and all, which will definitely affect the quality. And overstimulation, too much of high progesterone at the time of retrieval again has an effect on the quality. Again, endometrial preparation techniques, because ultimately it is the dialogue between an embryo and the endometrium. If the endometrial preparation is subnormal, no matter how good the embryos are, you won't get good success rates. So it's important that you do it under one particular doctor and in a setup which offers everything, so that you get the best outcome.
Everything under one
One
roof.
roof.
Yeah. Dr. Sophia, will this embryo biopsy add to our success rates?
Definitely, ma'am. If the patient has had repeated IVF failures, or the patient has had history of multiple abortions, or the patient has had family history of any genetic abnormalities which
Yeah.
we do not want in their offspring, we can go for pre-genetic testing. Now it's called pre-genetic testing, or PGT. So we get to know whether the embryo is chromosomally normal. Then only if these embryos are selected and transferred into the patient's uterus. If the embryo is very good looking but not genetically normal, then obviously this will lead into implantation failure.
Okay, I see a lot of patients ask about ERA nowadays. Can you just
So ERA is endometrial receptivity array, ma'am. That is to know where exactly is their implantation window. So we know that this window is very limited. It's about 12 to 24 hours, in which that particular time only we have to do the embryo transfer, that is a blastocyst transfer, to get the success. Now, in about 95% of patients, it is in that particular time when we are generally performing the embryo transfer. But about 5% of patients have this displaced window of implantation. So whoever is failing, say, 2 times with good quality embryos, the suspicion should rise about this displaced endometrial receptivity. So this is a very simple test where we prepare her as if we are going to do the embryo transfer, and instead of doing the transfer, we take a biopsy and send it for testing. So that will give individualized time at which the embryo transfer has to be performed. So I had one patient with 4 IVF failures in the past. every time good quality. At one stage, even a PGT was performed and a euploid embryo was transferred. But after seeing all these things, a very good quality embryo, even karyotyping being normal, failed, I did this ERA test and got to know that her endometrium was displaced by 1 day.
Okay.
So all I did is simple IVF and doing a blastocyst transfer on that individualized time of transfer,
Okay.
which she conceived with singleton pregnancy.
So fourth day you did.
Generally, we do 6th day of progesterone a blastocyst transfer. For this patient, I did on 7th day. So yeah, so she had a pre-receptive endometrium. So
Okay.
we have to postpone. by
She
some time.
conceived.
She conceived.
Nice.
So this is again, I think since 4, 5, 6 years, this test has been we are doing. So this is one thing which really makes a difference along with PGT.
Okay. Doctor, we have seen these couples when they walk into our clinics, they have so much of nervousness, anxiety, everything. Will that also have a bearing on the success?
So it's now we nowadays we tell the treatment should be a holistic approach.
Yeah.
It's not just the medicines, the doctor's part. Now now there comes up the role of the psychologist or the psychotherapist who can counsel them,
Yeah.
make them relax their mind. We always tell them you can always practice meditation, do some kind of a yoga therapy, relax your mind, then only the positive energy, the positive vibes will come.
Yeah.
When you are under constant stress and anxiety,
Mm.
there comes the body releases a hormone called as melatonin,
Mm.
which will impact the implantation potential of the embryos.
Okay.
So such patients who have undergone embryo transfer needs to have a relaxed mind. They need to calm down and then have lot of positive vibes.
Okay.
The best example how it affects is whenever we are giving conventional HRT, we see many patients thin endometrium because they are so stressed that endometrium is not coming up well. So such patients, when relaxed with the same medication, they respond better. So it's very important that they keep their mind calm and practice all this yoga.
There was a
meditation.
patient repeated thin endometrium with medications. So one day we told you just take
Stop
a break.
everything.
Take a break. Come on your day 12 of the cycle. We'll just see
Mm.
without any
Yes.
medicine. Endometrium lining was so good,
Oh my God.
so good without any medication. That's what, and even relaxed mind plays a great role in IVF
Treatment
and
response.
So that's why so many couples with multiple IVF fail when they go for a holiday, they conceive
They
and come
conceive.
back.
And this lockdown was the best
Yeah.
example. Like how many of our own patients conceive naturally
Correct,
who
yeah.
are waiting for IVF.
And Dr. Chaitra, one more question. In these couples who have had lot of negative results, they ask us that whether they should be completely confined to the bed, they should not travel, they should not work, like that. So many questions they have. What do you advise them?
Ma'am, it's very important that bed rest is something which is actually bad for them
Yeah.
because these patients are on lot of hormonal medication, so circulation is very important and they have a higher risk of developing this blood clotting and all.
Yeah.
So they have to be on a regular, at least walking, carry out their activities regularly, deviate their mind out of this and carry their work related activities and all. That way they can keep the stress away. They can also help themselves. They can keep themselves away from so many complications. So they can actually balance this treatment work simultaneously
Yes.
and prevent so many complications also.
Dr. Sophia, we have seen this multiple IUI and IVF failures. When they give up addictions, their results improves. Do you have anything to say on that?
Ma'am, regarding the habits, I think the most important thing is the smoking.
Yeah.
It's more than it's more bad than having an alcohol, but smoking, because it impacts the egg quality and the sperm quality very, very badly, and it's proven. It's not theoretically we are just telling anything. It's proven by many studies that smoking can affect the sperm quality as well as the egg quality. And it's not like you stop smoking now, tomorrow you do an IVF and it will conceive. So the body takes time to recover from the
Yes.
effect of smoking. So it takes at least 3 to 4 months from the time you have completely quit smoking for the change to occur in the body.
Yes. In cases of repeated pelvic infections, the tubes would have gathered lot of liquid and it would have swollen. So will this have a bearing on their embryo development and
Yeah,
implantation?
because the uterus is connected to the tube.
Mm.
Quite often, this hydrosalpinx fluid percolates into the uterine
Yes.
cavity.
Uh,
So as soon as we do the embryo transfer, there is a chance of embryos getting flushed. And because of in presence of infection, also there will be altered inflammatory markers,
yeah.
also altered endometrial receptivity markers. So definitely it has a negative impact on the result. So it's best that whenever we are able to see hydrosalpinx on scan,
Mm.
we do this tubal clipping and detach the link from the uterus and go ahead with the embryo transfer.
Okay. In such couples, does histolaparoscopy have a role, doctor?
Yes, ma'am. We have to first of all, we have to confirm our diagnosis of hydrosalpinx, and if it is present, then as Dr. Chaitra told, that we have to disconnect the connection between the tube and the
Yeah.
uterus, and then go ahead with the embryo transfer. So, when we do tubal clipping and followed by embryo transfer, we have seen a drastic improvement in the success rate of IVF.
If they don't have hydrosalpinx, does this have a role in any other thing?
It was
Histolaparoscopy.
definitely, ma'am. If we see that any endometrial spots are there, any signs of infections are there, mild endometritis which are not even seen in scan.
Yeah.
So all these things can be picked up when we are doing diagnostic histolaparoscopy.
Okay. Any final word for our couples who are having so much of anxiety over their multiple IVF failures?
One thing is that it's important that they stick to an IVF center, to a particular doctor, so that they can assess them better, understand what is their reason for failures, and changes can be made in the subsequent cycle. If any couple is having just one IVF failure, switching the doctor or switching the IVF center is not the answer, because the next doctor would probably start from the same thing again. So it's always try to understand your cause and how to overcome would be a better thing to do, rather than just shifting the IVF center.
Much. Okay. Thank you, doctors.
Thank you.
So we had such an enticing discussion about IVF and repeated IVF failures. We got to know about PGS, PGD, PGTA, ERA, and histolaparoscopy, the role of DFI in multiple IVF failures. So many things we came to know today. Thank you, viewers.